Chapter 5975. After the cultivators had returned to their own residences, the crowd that had gathered near the square gradually dispersed. Almost all the cultivators who had not gone out for training wanted to find cultivators they were familiar with to ask about the situation on the ancient battlefield. Such a huge improvement was simply unheard of, and the process of training must have been exceptionally exciting. The younger children couldn't hold back the excitement and yearning in their hearts. They were still too young, and they couldn't go to the training grounds at all. However, it was these heroic deeds that urged them to grow up quickly and become a part of the training grounds. Bailey Hongzhuang held Mu Lingbing's arm and the group walked towards their residences. "Hongzhuang, you haven't had a good rest for so many days. You must be tired. Have a good rest today." Mu Lingbing looked at Hongzhuang with concern. She was proud of her daughter's improvement, but she felt that her daughter had lost a lot of weight after leaving this time, and her heart ached at the sight of it. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. "Mother, I'm not tired. Every time I see you, I feel like I have an endless amount of energy. Even if I were to go back now, I wouldn't be able to calm down. Why don't I have a good chat with you?" Lin Yunqing and the others who were standing at the side felt their hearts soften when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and adorable appearance. This girl was usually so sensible that it made people gasp in admiration, but when she was being considerate, it made people feel happy from the bottom of their hearts. "Hongzhuang, are you telling the truth?" Xia Wanrong smiled gently. She liked this granddaughter-in-law more and more the more she looked at her. Compared to that Xiao So, she liked her a lot more. "Of course." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her bright eyes glowed even more brightly. "Grandmother, how would I dare to lie to you? Speaking of which, your granddaughter-in-law is the most considerate." Xia Wanrong patted Bailey Hongzhuang's smile, and her affectionate manner was just like a biological grandmother. When Mu Jin's and the others saw the unconcealable fondness on Xia Wanrong's face, their hearts were comforted. It was precisely because they saw this kind of love that couldn't be pretended that they were completely relieved. They knew that the Di family was sincere to Hongzhuang. As Hongzhuang's family, they could not help her at all. In fact, they might even drag her down. Therefore, they could not help but worry about this. Fortunately, things did not develop in the direction they were worried about. They did not have to worry about Hongzhuang being taken advantage of here in the future. Everyone laughed as they walked to the conference hall. On the way, Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng briefly talked about what happened in the ancient battlefield. As for Mo Yunjue and the rest, they had also returned to rest. The journey wasn't too tiring for them. After all, in the ancient battlefield this time, they had not only improved their cultivation but also their physique. However, for when Xiren, after eating dry rations for so long, what he looked forward to the most this time was a good meal. In the conference hall. Unlike the usual serious and solemn atmosphere, the assembly hall was currently filled with a relaxed and joyful atmosphere. Everyone casually found a comfortable seat and sat down. The attendants had already prepared tea and snacks for everyone to gather in the conference hall. The group of elders listened excitedly to Di Beichen and the others' introduction of the ancient battlefield. This was a land of heritage that had never appeared before, and none of them knew what was inside. Chapter 5976. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two spoke one after another about what they had experienced in the ancient battlefield, the elders could not help but be shocked and surprised. The cultivators in there are actually so powerful? Di Linchuan's face darkened slightly. He knew that his grandson was not someone who liked to brag, so what he said was naturally the truth. However, it was because of this that he felt terrified. There were so many cultivators who were far more powerful than them. Fortunately, they were dead. If they were not dead and appeared in the upper realm, it would be a disaster that could destroy heaven and earth. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. Indeed, they were very powerful. It was completely beyond my imagination. There were many storage rings and magic tools scattered on the ground, but just the aura alone was enough to intimidate me to the point that I couldn't get close at all, so I could only choose to give up. Even though it had been so long, he still felt a lingering fear when he thought about it now. Di Yujue and the others looked at each other and thought of the same place. There were so many powerful cultivators. There was probably no other place besides the crossing immortal domain. It was a place that they knew existed for a long time, but until now, they had not come into contact with the method to go to the crossing immortal domain. Among all of them, only Shu Yu had been to the crossing celestial domain and had even returned from there. However, no matter who went to ask, Shu Yu refused to talk about this matter. They were also very impatient. However, now that these powerhouses were so close to the upper realm, they could not help but feel terrified. After noticing the solemn expressions of the elders, Bewitching guessed what they were thinking. He immediately said, "Grandfather, father, you don't have to be too worried about this matter." As soon as he said that, Diyujue and the others looked at Bewitching. From what we know, whether it's the immortal domain or the crossing immortal domain, even if cultivators come to the upper realm, they will be restricted by the laws of heaven and earth. They won't be able to display their strength in the immortal domain here. Once they use it, they will be directly crushed into nothingness by the natural laws. Therefore, what you're worried about won't happen. Diyujue was a little surprised. "How do you know this?" "This is all thanks to you, big brother." Bewitching chuckled. Xia Wanrong and the others were puzzled. "Xiaofeng, how did you know?" Facing his family's inquisitive look, the smile on Emperor Xiaofeng's lips became brighter and brighter, and his expression revealed a trace of pride. "This time, I contracted a contracted beast from the immortal domain." Following Di Xiaofeng's words, the entire conference hall fell silent for a moment. The expressions of Xia Wanrong and others seemed to be suddenly frozen. They stared blankly at Di Xiaofeng, wondering if they had heard wrong. "The immortal region?" Diyujue frowned. "The immortal region should be a place stronger than the crossing immortal region, right?" Although he didn't know much about these things, he could tell from the name alone. "Not bad." Di Xiaofeng replied and slowly explained the situation of the nine-tailed inferno fox. "Actually, with my strength, I couldn't contract it. Fortunately, Beichin helped me." He knew very well that if the nine-tailed inferno fox didn't want Beichin to agree to its condition, it probably wouldn't agree so easily. No matter what, this is excellent news. Chapter 5977. Although Di Xiaofeng really wanted everyone to see the appearance of the nine-tailed inferno fox, unfortunately, even if they had completed the contract, an existence like the nine-tailed inferno fox was not so easy to call. This guy wouldn't have made the contract if he had a choice. Di Xiaofeng didn't want to force it. If it were him, he probably wouldn't be willing to have such a weak master either. However, he wouldn't feel discouraged because of this. He just deeply realized that his current strength wasn't enough. He would work hard to improve his cultivation until the day the nine-tailed inferno fox was willing to accept him as its master. He believed that such a day would come. "I have a very important news to tell everyone." With a serious look on his handsome face, Bewitching slowly said, "Jun Lingxuan has been possessed by the Qing devil." As soon as these words came out, the entire conference hall paused again. Everyone was shocked again. Jun Lingxuan has been possessed? Di Linxian was in disbelief. This kind of thing wasn't strange to them, but there weren't many people who could do this. Jun Lingxuan was the young master of the Jun family. The impact of him being possessed wasn't small. Bewitching nodded. "Yes, we saw this with our own eyes." "Does the Jun family know?" Diyujue said in a deep voice. If the Jun family didn't know this news, a soul from the upper realm would become their opponent. That would be the most troublesome thing. This matter is a bit complicated. After Bewitching explained the process of the matter in detail, Xia Wanrong and the others were also a bit incredulous. "So, Xiao Sou has been protecting the Qing devil?" "That's right." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her delicate jade-like face was a bit complicated. "I vaguely feel that Xiao Sou seems to have fallen in love with the Qing devil. That's why she has been protecting him. It was not because of the hatred between her and Xiao Sou, but because she felt it when she saw Xiao Sou risking her life to protect Qing devil. For a woman, she must like the man very much. Only then would she be willing to give up everything for him. Otherwise, with Xiao Sou's personality, she would never do such a thing." When Jun Lingxuan was still alive, Xiao Sui was also serious about him. However, it was obviously not as serious as his affection for Qing devil. As long as this was confirmed, then all the seemingly inexplicable things Xiao Sou had done during this period of time could be explained. Xia Wanrong and the others looked at each other. This situation was indeed somewhat difficult to accept in their view. Xiao Sou had never accepted anyone before. However, in the past 2 years, she first fell in love with Di Beichen and then got engaged to Jun Lingxuan. This speed was not slow. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, she would fall in love with a man who possessed Jun Lingxuan? That man was her enemy. I also agree with Hong Zhuang's judgment. Di Beichen said. Di Xiaofeng nodded. In fact, I think so too. Although it's a bit hard to believe, I really think so. Seeing that the 3 juniors had the same opinion, everyone had to believe the news no matter how hard they thought it was. Perhaps Xiao Sou was a person who changed her love very quickly. There were such women in the world. Chapter 5978. If the Qing devil left the ancient battlefield, then he might live on as Jun Lingxuan, which is indeed troublesome for us. Di Beichen's deep and magnetic voice sounded a little heavy. His eyes were deep and complicated. However, according to the 9-tailed inferno fox, the Qing devil might not be able to leave the ancient battlefield. Therefore, we have to wait for the news from the Jun family to confirm this. He was biased towards the 9-tailed inferno fox's judgment. As long as the Qing devil did not come out, the disappearance of the Jun family's young master would definitely be a big blow to the Jun family. If that's the case, we can rest assured. Then, Di Beichen and the others introduced the light statue and the darkness statue. This was completely beyond the knowledge of Di Yujue and the others. Even they had never come into contact with such statues. Just hearing about it was already very shocking. If they had known about the situation inside, they would have gone there personally. Such a fortuitous encounter was simply unimaginable. As for the increase in talent, it was even more shocking. Fortunately, you have gained a lot this time. Di Yujue suppressed the shock in his heart. Although they were not lucky enough to see the 2 statues, the younger generation had gained a lot this time. It was very worth it. In comparison, the Jun family and the Xiao family would find it hard to accept after hearing the news. The Xiao family. When Xiao Sou and Xiao Sudong returned to the family, a group of cultivators naturally came out to welcome them. However, when Xiao Yanlong saw the sparse few cultivators, his expression turned extremely ugly. He quickly walked to Xiao Sudong and Xiao Yanlong and asked nervously, "What's going on? Did Di Beichen and the others do it?" He was no stranger to such a scene. When the Divine Cloud's secret realm ended, the Jun family was faced with such a scene. However, he had never thought that such a thing would happen to the Xiao clan one day. Those who had gone to the ancient battlefield this time were all youths with great potential from the Xiao clan. However, less than 1/10 of them had returned. How could he accept this? For a family, the younger generation meant hope. Every young cultivator was nurtured by the family with a lot of effort. However, now that so many of them had perished, how could he not feel heartache? Xiao Sudong's mood could be said to be extremely low these days. Originally, he was still in high spirits after his death. Who would have thought that he would be targeted to this extent by Di Beichen and the others? If they hadn't run fast enough at the last moment, they would have been killed by Di Beichen and the others. At this moment, when he heard his father's concerned question, he immediately said angrily, "Who else could it be? Father, they are really going too far. They actually joined forces with the Murong family, the Jiang family, and even the Great Devil sect to kill us all." Xiao Sudong's eyes were red and burning with rage. If the heavens had helped us and given us a chance to escape, I'm afraid we would have been completely annihilated this time. Just thinking about the tragic scene at that time, he couldn't help but feel his heart ache and tremble with anger. It's these damned bastards. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a gentleman. Chapter 5979. The cultivators in the team were all dejected at this moment. Back when they had gone out for training, nothing like this had ever happened. However, the teams of the Di family, the Lin family, the Murong family, the Jiang family, and even the Great Devil sect flashed through their minds. They only felt that if they wanted to save their lives, they should never participate in any training in the future and never meet the Di family again. Otherwise, they would really be finished. The members of the Xiao family were also gloomy at this moment, especially those whose children had lost their lives and were unable to return. They were even more heartbroken. While they had a strong hatred for the Di family, they also resented Xiao Shou. If it weren't for Xiao Shou suddenly wanting to form an alliance with the Jun family, they wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. The Di family was now in the limelight. If they had maintained their friendly relationship with the Di family, coupled with the fact that they owed them, they would not have needed to worry about such a situation happening at all. However, after the Xiao family and the Jun family formed an alliance, waves of bad news came one after another. First, they lost their position as the Holy Maiden of Light. Then, they had a great battle with the Di family and the Lin family. Then, they were taught a lesson by the Holy Assembly of Light. They thought that their misfortune would end here. Who would have thought that a large number of cultivators would die in the ancient battlefield? Under this situation, they seemed to be no match for the Di family at all. Now, many outstanding young people had died. If they met again in the future, the situation would definitely be worse than now. After noticing everyone's gaze, Xiao Shou's expression also became complicated. Even if everyone didn't show it directly, she could guess what everyone was thinking just by looking at their expressions. Most importantly, she had no way to refute them. Even she was very clear that this decision was indeed too stupid. However, when she thought of the Qing devil, she felt that she did not regret it. As long as the Qing devil lived on as Jun Lingxuan, she believed that with the Qing devil's ability, he would be able to pull the Jun family and the Xiao family together again. She was an expert from the celestial realm. How could Bewitching and the others compare to her? Her dark eyes were shining brightly. As long as Qing devil was here, she felt that these frustrations in front of her were nothing. It would only take a period of time for these effects to fade away. When Qing devil led the Jun family to a new height, the Jun family would probably be grateful for the decision he had made. Xiao Yanlong suppressed the anger in his heart. He looked at the dispirited crowd and said, "You have all worked hard on this trip. Go back and have a good rest." "Yes, Patriarch." Unlike the usual loud and clear voices, everyone's voice was somewhat low at this moment. These repeated blows made them unable to be as energetic as before. On the contrary, they were filled with gloom. Recalling the scene of being crushed in the ancient battlefield, they were already thinking of ways to avoid the next experiential learning. It wasn't that they weren't willing to contribute to their families, but they knew that they would only be throwing their lives away if they went. There wasn't even the slightest bit of hope, so who would be willing to go? Since there was no hope, they might as well linger on with their last breaths. Xiao Yanlong and the elders looked at the dispirited cultivators and sighed in their hearts. They could see that after this experiential learning, everyone's confidence seemed to have been completely destroyed. They were no longer as energetic as they used to be. This was what worried them the most. Chapter 5980. After everyone left, Xiao Yanlong called Xiao Shou and Xiao Sudong into the room and asked in a deep voice, "What happened during this period of time?" Xiao Shou also understood that Xiao Yanlong was not asking about their gains in the ancient battlefield, but the various changes that happened during this period of time. In front of her father, she did not hide anything and immediately told him everything. "What did you say? Jun Lingxuan was possessed?" Xiao Yanlong took a few steps back with a pale face. This was a huge blow to both the Jun family and the Xiao family. Jun Lingxuan's death meant that the marriage alliance had fallen through, but now everyone had linked the Xiao family and the Jun family together. Even if he proposed to break the alliance with the Jun family, no one would believe him. Indeed, one wrong move led to many wrong moves. It was originally a good move, but now it had become like this. "Father, don't worry, listen to me." Xiao Shou helped Xiao Yanlong to sit down. Although Jun Lingxuan's body has been possessed, the soul that possessed him is the Qing devil from the immortal region. You should have heard from Senior Shu Yu that the immortal region is a very extraordinary place. The people there are far stronger than us. He has taken over Jun Lingxuan's body and can lead us to become stronger. As soon as she said this, Xiao Sudong could not help but frown. "Sister, didn't Brother Ling Sun say that he has regained control of his body?" "That's a lie," Xiao Shou said frankly. In front of others, she needed to pretend, But in front of her family, she did not need to pretend. Xiao Sudong was stunned. It turned out that his suspicion was not wrong. Then why are you still helping him? Qing Devil killed brother Ling Sun, so he was their enemy. What was the reason for helping the enemy instead? Xiao Yanlong did not speak, but looked at Xiao Sou with a complicated gaze. In his mind, he had already vaguely guessed his thoughts. If that was the case, then he suddenly felt that he did not know enough about his daughter. So, what do you think? Xiao Yanlong asked casually. I think we can pretend that we don't know. As long as the Qing Devil has the ability to change the current situation of the Jun family and the Xiao family, then whether he is Jun Lingxuan or not, is it that important? Xiao Sou's eyes were full of resentment and viciousness. Bailey Hongzhuang was really very proud. Every time she thought about it, she could not help but feel angry. Clearly, these things originally belonged to her, but they were all originally belonged to her, but now, even in her dreams, she wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Sister, but brother Ling's the one you like. Xiao Sudong looked at Xiao Sou in disbelief. He suddenly felt that he didn't know this big sister in front of him. How could he say such nonsensical words? Could it be that big sister could pretend that she didn't know that he was the one who was being possessed? Suddenly, Xiao Sudong felt a chill in his heart. Is it important whether I like him or not? Xiao Sou sneered. The one I like now is Jun Lingxuan, who is also Qing Devil. Sister. Sudong. Xiao Yanlong stopped Xiao Sudong. When he turned to Xiao Sou, his eyes were full of appreciation. So, it's good that you can understand this. Chapter 5981. Being vicious, and even unscrupulous might not be a good thing in the eyes of others, but as the head of the family, it was not a bad thing. Achieving one's goal by any means was more of a guarantee for the interests of the family. In fact, Xiao Sou was the one who sacrificed the most in this whole thing, but the benefits it brought belonged to the whole family. In the past, because of Xiao Sou's identity as the Saintess of the Light, he had never taught her too much. Because the identity of the Saintess of the Light was already a gap that many people could not cross. After losing this title, he had been depressed because of it. His daughter had been acting like a young lady all these years. If he had known that this identity was not so stable, he would have changed Xiao Sou's character. Who would have thought that after so many things had happened, Xiao Sou had grown up on her own? This made him feel very careful. At least it was easier for her to survive with this kind of character now than before. Xiao Sudong looked at Xiao Yanlong in disbelief. He could not believe that his father actually thought that his sister's decision was very good. This was a completely deranged decision. Father, if this matter is exposed one day, how will my sister live? From the moment Qing Devil admitted his identity in front of everyone, he felt that Qing Devil might not care about all this at all. Once a soul from the immortal region grew up, his strength would be very amazing in the future, but no one knew his character. If he had evil intentions, wouldn't that be? Looking at Xiao Sudong's naive appearance, Xiao Sou shook her head and sighed. She put her hands on Xiao Sudong's shoulders and looked straight at Xiao Sudong, saying, Sudong, we are no longer the same as before. I did make a wrong decision at that time, but now there is no room for negotiation. If we don't find a way to change all this, think about how the Di family and the Lin family were before. They will not let us go at all. Looking at Xiao Sou's serious eyes, Xiao Sudong struggled hard in his heart. He felt that his sister's decision was too crazy, but he couldn't refute her words. Now, the Xiao family was indeed in a difficult situation. The Di family used to have the best relationship with them, but now, they had completely fallen out. As for the other families, they would usually be overcautious if they wanted to help them. As the Di family grew stronger and stronger, it became even more impossible for them to help. Even if his father had never mentioned this point, he understood that the friendship between the great families was built on the interests of both sides. In a situation where they were willing to risk their lives for each other than the families that were tied together by marriage, no other family would be willing to do so. In comparison, the relationship between the younger generation during the experiential learning was much simpler. Because their relationship was good enough, they were willing to help the other party. However, it was different when it came to the family. However, now that the D family was in the limelight, they didn't even need to look for helpers. Countless families had already taken the initiative to approach them and try to get closer to them. Comparing the two, if the Shao clan did not think of a solution, they might really be removed from the list of top aristocratic families in the future. Chapter 5982. Although many things were beyond Xiao Yanlong's expectations, after Xiao Sou's analysis, he felt that what she said was very reasonable. If everything could go according to plan, then there might be a turning point. How powerful were the cultivators in the immortal region? When he heard Shu Yu talk about it, he was full of yearning. If he could have a son-in-law from the immortal region, wouldn't that be amazing? After all, Shu Yu had only gone to the immortal region once. She hadn't been to the real immortal region, but her strength was already so outstanding. How powerful were the cultivators in the immortal region? Even if he possessed Jun Lingxuan's body and didn't have the power of the immortal region, he alone could do well in the upper world. However, the only thing I'm worried about is Qing Devil's character. Xiao Sudong's face darkened. No one knew what kind of character the cultivators from the immortal region had. Wouldn't it be terrible if they didn't want to cooperate with them at all? A smile appeared on Xiao Sou's face. She said, "Father, don't worry. During this period of time, I've become very familiar with him." Really? Xiao Sudong was stunned for a moment. Then, joy appeared in his eyes. Xiao Sou nodded. Of course. She knew very well that with Qing Devil's identity, he wouldn't care about ordinary people at all. However, Qing Devil would still be willing to help her when she had questions. Moreover, she risked her life for Qing Devil at the last moment. She believed that Qing Devil wouldn't turn a blind eye to it. The most important thing was, she had already confirmed Qing Devil's feelings for her. Good, that's good. Xiao Sudong patted the table happily. The depression that had been caused by the death of so many young disciples dissipated a lot at this moment. Xiao Sudong had been silent. He didn't know how to persuade him at all. Most importantly, after thinking about it carefully, he also felt that this crazy plan was somewhat feasible. Since the cultivators of the Jun family have been fooled by you, don't tell them that you were possessed. Even if the Jun family asks, you must insist that the Qing Devil is Jun Lingxuan. Do you understand? Xiao Yanlong's eyes were deep and ruthless. Now that things had reached this point, this was the only way. He didn't know how Jun Hongcheng would react if he heard the news, and he didn't want such an accident to happen, so the best way was to not tell them. Perhaps this was the best outcome for Jun Hongcheng. Father, I understand. Xiao Sou nodded. Only then did Xiao Yanlong look at Xiao Sudong. Sudong, you can't tell anyone about this either. Yes, father. Xiao Yanlong heaved a sigh of relief and walked out of the house. He still had to deal with the family matters of the fallen cultivators. Although it gave him a headache, he felt much more relaxed after coming up with a new idea. The Jun family's team was the last to return of all the teams. Although they were almost the first to reach the exit, they hid nearby after escaping to avoid the D family's pursuit. They didn't feel relieved until the D family's team left. However, they didn't see the young master after waiting for a long time, which made them feel very helpless. Chapter 5983. Without the young master, how could they return to the family? When they thought about the family head's questions, they had no way of answering. Therefore, the cultivators of the Jun family stayed near the exit for many days until the exit closed. Only then did they choose to return. Along the way, everyone prayed that the young master might have returned as soon as possible because he was worried about danger. When they arrived at the family, they might find that the young master had already returned a few days ago. This was the most likely possibility. When Jun Hongcheng heard that the cultivators of the other families had returned from their experiential learning, but only his own team of cultivators had not returned, he could not help but feel anxious. What's going on? Why haven't Ling Sun and the others returned after so many days? Jun Hongcheng looked at the family gate where no one had come, his determined and calm face full of anxiety and worry. In the beginning he was not so worried, but as time passed he felt that something was wrong. There must be a reason why they had not returned for so long. Family head, don't worry too much. I believe that the young master will be blessed by the heavens and will return safely, Jun Xianxiao said. Jun Hongqing sighed. His face, which was usually full of confidence, now revealed a rare lack of confidence. Great Elder, I think we may have made the wrong decision. Now that the D family is getting stronger and stronger, he regretted it very much. If he had killed D Baichen back then, there would not be so many unexpected things happening now. If they had killed D Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang when he had returned, there would not be so many twists and turns now. Now, these two people had grown up. He vaguely felt that the momentum of these two people could no longer be suppressed. The incident in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm had already given them a huge blow. This time, with Shu Yu's guidance, he was originally full of confidence. However, he did not know when it started, but his confidence had completely dissipated. Jun Xianxiao had never seen Jun Hongqing reveal such a tired expression. Even if they could not defeat the D family in the past, the family head had always been full of confidence. But now, he could not see the slightest bit of confidence on the patriarch's face, only despair and exhaustion. After fighting for so many years, they had finally seen the hope of victory. Who would have thought that something like this would happen? For a moment, the hope that seemed incomparably close disappeared completely. Patriarch, there might be a chance for a turnaround. Don't be too pessimistic. Jun Xianxiao couldn't bear it. The patriarch had suffered too much over the years. I hope so. Jun Hongqing had a complicated expression on his face. He only had 2 sons, and his youngest son had already perished in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. Now, only Ling Sun was left. If something happened to Ling Sun, then Patriarch, why don't I go to the Shao clan and ask around? Maybe Sei Wu and the others have already returned. Jun Xianxiao pondered. Young Lord and Sei Wu were a couple. If Sei Wu returned, they would also know what had happened in the ancient battlefield. Jun Hongqing hesitated for a moment, but in the end he couldn't overcome his worry for his son. He nodded and said, "Okay, you go and ask." Just as Jun Xianxiao was about to set off, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside the door. Chapter 5984. A series of footsteps meant that someone had returned. At least, they weren't completely wiped out. Jun Hongqing and Jun Xianxiao looked at each other, and the two of them quietly let go of their worries. Several cultivators slowly walked through the gate of the Jun family. This trip to the ancient battlefield made them feel as if they had taken a trip to the gates of hell. Although their time in the Temple of Light was extremely comfortable, what happened later made them feel endless despair. Now that they had returned to the family, everyone's faces unconsciously revealed a trace of a smile. This feeling of returning safely was really good. Before the smile on Jun Hongqing's face spread, he noticed that a few cultivators had returned. Compared to the team when they set off, this was simply less than 1/10 of them. The most important thing was that he didn't see Jun Lingshuan among these people. Jun Xianxiao was also shocked. He didn't understand how such a situation could happen. Jun Xianxiao rushed forward and questioned, "Where is the young master?" These 5 cultivators obviously didn't expect to see the Great Elder as soon as they entered the door, and the Great Elder's question shocked them even more. "The young master didn't come back?" one of them asked in a low voice. As soon as these words came out, Jun Hongqing couldn't help but take 2 steps back. His body was almost unstable, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Impossible! This is impossible! His heart was screaming frantically. Ling Sun couldn't have fallen like this. The moment Jun Xianxiao saw the family head's face, which seemed to have aged a lot, he had already guessed what the family head was thinking. He quickly asked, "Didn't the young master go with you? Now you're asking if the young master came back?" The Jun family's disciples rarely saw the Great Elder like this, and for a moment, they were a little confused. At the same time, the Jun family's members rushed out after hearing the commotion outside. In fact, these few days, everyone had been waiting for the cultivators who had gone out to train to return. However, when everyone saw that there were only a few people outside the door, everyone's heart skipped a beat, and their faces turned extremely ugly. What's going on? Why are there only a few people back? Where are the others? It seems that the young master didn't come back either. Everyone lowered their voices. Even though their hearts were filled with doubts, no one dared to speak out loud. This scene reminded them of the time when only the young master had returned from the immortal cloud's secret realm. Every family would experience a complete annihilation during an experiential learning. However, it had happened twice in a row. Even the Jun family couldn't bear it. What the hell is going on? Jun Hongqing noticed the puzzled expressions on the cultivators' faces, and a glimmer of hope ignited in his heart once again. Seeing that, the few cultivators then slowly recounted what had happened when they left the ancient battlefield. We waited at the exit for many days until the exit closed, but we still didn't see young master. That's why we thought that young master might have returned. Jun Hongqing looked at the man who spoke with a burning gaze. So, you definitely didn't see anything happen to Ling Sun? I'm sure. The man nodded. At that time, everyone was protecting young master as he left. Young master left before us, so there shouldn't be any problems. He still remembered that when they were swept away by that gust of wind, the young master had instructed them not to resist and to follow the direction of the wind to escape. Chapter 5985. Jun Hongqing quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Although it was hard for him to accept the fact that so many cultivators had fallen, the fact that Ling Sun was still alive gave him the greatest comfort. If even Ling Sun had fallen, then he would really have no hope left. After hearing the news, Jun Xianxiao and the others also quietly breathed a sigh of relief. At least the young master was still alive. Patriarch, I believe that the young master is blessed by heaven. He must be on his way back. Let's wait in the family with peace of mind, Jun Xianxiao said. Jun Hongqing nodded slightly. After thinking about it carefully, he still felt a little uneasy. Send someone to the Emperor Cloud City to inquire. If something happened to Ling Sun, the D family would have already known. Yes, I will send someone immediately, Jun Xianxiao replied. The D family had been enemies with them for many years. If the D family killed Jun Lingxuan, they would definitely spread the news immediately. Similarly, if this news did not spread, then they could be sure that Ling Sun was safe and sound. As long as he was still alive, it didn't matter if he came back a little later. When Shu Yu came out of seclusion and saw that the Jun family only had a few cultivators left, he couldn't help but be shocked. From the first time he saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, he knew that these two people were not simple. However, before he set off, he had already warned Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou. If these two people could do as he said, there shouldn't be any problems. However, who would have thought that in the end, they would be defeated by the other party and lose everything? For a moment, he couldn't figure out the reason. Jun Hongqing was naturally very polite to Shu Yu. Lord Shu Yu, Ling Sun should be on his way back. This time, the matter is really set. Patriarch Jun, don't be too sad. Shu Yu's expression was complicated. At a time like this, he had nothing to say other than words of comfort. On the other hand, Jun Hongqing and Xiao Yanlong had paid a huge price to invite Shu Yu to teach Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Yanlong. If Shu Yu was unwilling to continue teaching after such a thing happened, wouldn't that be terrible? I'm afraid my son's performance this time has disappointed you. Hearing this, Shu Yu glanced at Jun Hongqing indifferently. In his heart, he understood the purpose of the latter's words. Jun family head, don't worry. When Ling Sun returns, I will properly guide him in his cultivation. It's not necessarily a bad thing for young people to experience setbacks during their training. As long as they're willing to work hard, there's still hope to change everything in the future. Jun Hongqing immediately let out a sigh of relief. His heart that was hanging in the air also calmed down. He said in pleasant surprise, "Then I'll have to trouble you. You don't have to be so polite. This is my duty." Shu Yu's expression was calm. He knew very well that Jun Lingxuan was indeed not as good as Di Beichen. However, since Jun Lingxuan was his disciple, he had to find a way to improve Jun Lingxuan's strength. Otherwise, when the news spread out in the future, he would be disgraced. When the Jun family sent people to the Emperor Cloud City to inquire about the news, the Di family also sent people to the vicinity of the Jun family to inquire about the news. Whether the Qing Devil had come out or not was a question that everyone was very concerned about at the moment. Di Beichen and the others naturally hoped that the Qing Devil wouldn't come out. Once this guy appeared, no one knew what kind of changes would occur in the upper world. Chapter 5986. Inside the room, the sunlight shone through the cracks in the windowsill, giving off a warm feeling. Bewitching, according to the news from the spies, Jun Lingxuan hasn't returned to the Jun family yet. I think the nine-tailed Inferno Fox's judgment is correct. Di Xiaofeng's face was full of smiles. He felt that the Di family's luck was really good. Although all the major forces had gained a lot from the Divine Hall of Light, Beichen, Hongzhuang, Yan Che, Linger, and Yunju were the ones who had gained the most. Di Beichen nodded. I'm afraid that Qing Devil didn't realize that possession was useless until the moment he left. He couldn't leave the ancient battlefield at all. Recalling Qing Devil's smug look, Di Beichen found it very interesting. He had made this guy happy for so long, but in the end, he fell into despair. It's better if a scourge like him doesn't come out. Thinking of Qing Devil, Di Xiaofeng's eyes became hazy. Now the Jun family is still hoping that Jun Lingxuan can come back as soon as possible. If they know that Jun Lingxuan can never come back, they will definitely collapse. Maybe. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Tit for tat. If the Jun family hadn't been so arrogant and made trouble for them all these years, they wouldn't have fallen into such a situation now. In the end, all of this was their own choice. Bailey Hongzhuang was very busy after returning to the Di family. On one hand, she had to communicate with her family. Whether it was the Immortal Realm or the Crossing Immortal Realm, Lan Yunxiao and the others were confused. They didn't know where these places were. When they were in the meeting hall, they didn't have the nerve to interrupt. When they came back, they naturally had to ask Hongzhuang. Otherwise, when they talked in the future, they couldn't even figure out the situation. How could they continue to talk? Bailey Hongzhuang naturally answered all the questions patiently. If it wasn't for the forest world and the Chaos Ring, they wouldn't have known about the existence of the Immortal Domain and the Crossing Immortal Domain. However, after meeting Shu Yu and Qing Devil, the Crossing Celestial Realm and the Immortal Realm didn't seem so mysterious anymore. They seemed to be closer to each other. They didn't know when they would be able to truly come into contact with the Crossing Immortal Domain or even the Immortal Domain. However, they had a vague premonition that it wasn't too far away. The Temple of Light had given them a lot of help, which had greatly improved their cultivation. It was precisely because of this that they had to grasp this opportunity and increase their cultivation as soon as possible, because no one knew when they would suddenly face an unexpected problem. When Lan Yunxiao and the others heard that there was the Crossing Immortal Domain and even the Immortal Realms above the Upper Realm, they were extremely shocked. When they first learned about the Upper Realm, they found it hard to believe. After seeing the various aspects of the Upper Realm, the shock in their hearts grew even stronger. However, they didn't know much about the Upper Realm. Now that an even higher realm had appeared, it was really hard for them to accept. I suddenly feel that I don't know anything about this world. Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but sigh. When we were in the lower realm, we were really frogs in a well. Yulin Feng also nodded. Hongzhuang, are you saying that even the head of the Di family didn't know about the Immortal Domain? Chapter 5987. Family Head and the others only know that there is a higher plane above the Upper Realm. They've heard of the Crossing Immortal Domain before, but they don't know much about it. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, in fact, even if we've heard of the Crossing Immortal Domain and the Immortal Domain, we still haven't found the way to go there. Could it be that their cultivation hasn't reached the required level, so they don't know about it? Si Tuyen's eyes darkened. Back then, he only knew about the Penglai Island, but he never thought about going there. It seemed like an unreachable distance, but as long as their cultivation reached a certain level, they would be able to reach it. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and shook her head. It shouldn't be. The Di family is already one of the top families in the Upper Realm. Even if their cultivation hasn't reached the required level, someone would have been able to reach it after so many years. However, there hasn't been any news. Currently, we only know that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou's master, Shu Yu, have been to the Crossing Immortal Domain. However, he hasn't mentioned anything about it, so we can't make any conclusions. As she said that, Bailey Hongzhuang was also thinking about whether she should tell them about the abandoned Immortal Forest. However, if she said that, everyone would definitely want to go to the abandoned immortal forest to take a look. Furthermore, they had accepted Granny Hua and the others' gifts and pointers, and they had promised not to bring anyone there. If they brought everyone there rashly, they would make Granny Hua and the others unhappy. Then they would lose more than they gained. After all, Granny Hua and the others were their only way to understand the immortal domain. If they offended them, not only would they feel bad, but it would also be difficult to find such a good master in the future. Rather than that, they might as well put it aside for now and wait until they were more familiar with Granny Hua and the others, or until they had a certain level of understanding of the immortal domain. Hong Zhuang, what are you thinking about? Seeing that Bailey Hong Zhuang was suddenly in a daze, Mu Lingbing couldn't help but wave her hand in front of her eyes. Bailey Hong Zhuang regained her senses and smiled. Nothing, I'm just thinking about where the entrance to the crossing immortal domain is. How long has it been since you came to the upper realm? Lan Yunxiao smiled faintly. You've already reached this level so quickly. I believe that you'll definitely come in the future. In the past, he thought Hong Zhuang's strength was very outstanding, but the current situation made him realize that he had underestimated his daughter's strength. She was far more outstanding than they had imagined. Even in the face of the upper realm's many geniuses, perhaps, in the future realm's immortal domain, the immortal domain's immortal domain. But if not, it's. That is. Of it. S. Bailey Hong Zhuang turned to look at everyone. Judging from their complexions and auras, she could tell that they had been doing well. They hadn't been in the D family for long, but her father and the others' strengths had increased greatly. Chapter 5988. During this period of time, Lin Yunqing and the others took great care of them. They didn't need to do anything on a daily basis and would send cultivation resources to them every few days. These days of peacefully cultivating without having to worry about anything seemed like a long time ago. Aside from worrying about the safety of Hong Zhuang and the others, they couldn't be picky about anything else. Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips curled into a warm smile. In fact, she also understood that her mother and the others wouldn't suffer any grievances here. Her only worry was that they weren't familiar with this place and would have some restrictions. However, thinking about it carefully, her father and the others had been here for quite some time. Even if they weren't familiar with this place when they first arrived, they gradually became more familiar with it after such a long time. Father, I plan to make a trip to the Bailey family in the next few days. Do you all want to come with me? Bailey Hong Zhuang raised her eyebrows. No matter what, she was still the head of the Bailey family. She felt that it wasn't appropriate for her to not personally visit for so many days. Hearing this, Lan Yunxiao and the others looked at each other and nodded in unison. That's your family. We naturally have to go and take a look. Although the Bailey family couldn't be compared to the D family, everyone was still filled with curiosity towards the Bailey family. Hong Zhuang had only been in the upper realm for a short period of time, but she had already become the head of a family. As her family, how could they not go and take a look? Moreover, in the days that Bailey Hong Zhuang wasn't here, the cultivators of the D family who stayed in the Bailey family were very polite to them. Just from their attitude, they knew that Hong Zhuang was definitely very respected in the Bailey family. All of this made them feel incomparably proud. That's great. Bailey Hong Zhuang was delighted. I'll tell Beichen and the others about this matter later. Also, the cultivators of the family have been away for so long. I'm sure they want to go back and take a look. In the past, it was a bit troublesome to go back and forth between the two families. Now that the transportation array had been built, it was more convenient to go back and forth. You arrange it. We'll listen to you. Lan Yunxiao looked at Xiao Sou dotingly. When Bailey Hong Zhuang returned to her residence, she found Beichen and Di Xiaofeng together. Seeing her appear, the two revealed smiles. You're back so soon? Di Beichen's smile, as warm as the sun. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly. I came back to discuss something with you. Wifey, just say what you want to do, I will agree. Di Beichen chuckled. No matter what Hong Zhuang wanted to do, he would try his best to satisfy her. Bailey Hong Zhuang was full of smiles. She always knew that no matter what she wanted to do, Beichen would support her as always. But when she heard this, her heart still felt warm. I plan to bring father and mother to the Bailey family. At the same time, I can let some of the cultivators who are studying medicine go back. Originally, I didn't expect to stay here for so long. It's just that we went to the ancient battlefield and spent a lot of time here. I want to understand the current situation of the Bailey family. If I can raise the family status, that would be great. She had never forgotten her responsibility. Because of her disappearance, the family's inheritance was lost, causing the Bailey family to fall from a top aristocratic family to a small family now. Since she was the reason for their decline, she had the responsibility to lead the Bailey family to greater heights. Chapter 5989. Grandpa, I know you can't see what I'm doing now, but I still hope to tell you that I've done my best to make up for my regrets. No problem. Beichen smiled faintly. Just as the most important thing for him now was to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly, Hongzhuang's most important thing was to make the Bailey family stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Xiaofeng. Big brother, ask Yunyan if she plans to go back. If she wants to go back and take a look, then let's go back together. Okay. Di Xiaofeng nodded. I'll ask later. I think she must want to go back and take a look. Coincidentally, there's nothing to do recently. There's no news from the Jun family yet, so we can take care of some things at hand. Beichen raised his eyebrows. I have to go find father later. I forgot to tell him about the blood spirit stone last time. They had already gained a lot in the ancient battlefield. Not only had their cultivation improved rapidly, but their talent had also improved. In the future, their cultivation speed would be even faster. If they didn't know about the existence of the immortal region, perhaps they wouldn't be so anxious. Now that they knew everything, they only felt that increasing their strength was the most important thing. Not only them, but their father also needed to increase his strength. If it weren't for the younger generation, their father and the others would have also gone to the ancient battlefield this time. Their improvement would probably be very shocking. Di Xiaofeng understood Beichen's thoughts. They had a lot of blood spirit stones in their hands. Using blood spirit stones to cultivate was faster than using high-grade spirit stones. If their father and the others' cultivation improved a little, the family would be safer. Although the Jun family and the Xiao family had suffered a setback this time, they weren't worried about the strength of the two families if they really clashed. However, there was one person they had to be wary of. That was Shuyu. This person was stronger than Diyujua. If Shuyu was determined to help the Jun family, once a battle broke out, she would be a big problem. Only when their father's strength increased would everything be safe. That's right. The most important thing now is to increase the strength of the family. Our cultivation has improved a lot during this time, so it's good to slow down a little and stabilize it, Di Xiaofeng said. Beichen nodded slightly. That was exactly what he was worried about. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the blood spirit stones in her hand to Beichen and said, I gave a portion to my parents earlier. You can take the rest. Hearing this, Beichen glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. It was just a glance, and there was no need to say anything else. When Diyujue saw Beichen take out so many blood spirit stones, he was extremely shocked. He originally wanted to refuse. As a father, how could he accept his child's cultivation resources? However, after hearing Beichen's words, he still accepted the blood spirit stone, feeling comforted. He thought back to when Beichen went missing. That was the most difficult time for him. Guilt, self-blame, worry, and all kinds of emotions gathered together. He had thought more than once that as long as Beichen could come back, no matter what kind of person he was, even if he was a wastrel who lost his ambition, he would treat him well. However, Beichen's performance completely exceeded his expectations and gave him a big surprise. Now, he only felt that having such a son was his pride. Everything back then was worth it. Chapter 5990. Father, Hongzhuang and I plan to go to the Bailey family. If there's anything, send someone to inform us. Beichen smiled. Don't worry, there shouldn't be anything big in the near future. When Lin Yunqing knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was going back to the Bailey family, she called Di Xiaofeng over. When Di Xiaofeng arrived, he saw that not only was Lin Yunqing here, but Xia Wanrong was also here. "Mother, why did you call me over?" Di Xiaofeng asked. However, Lin Yunqing didn't answer him. Instead, she looked at Xia Wanrong and the two smiled at him. Being stared at by the two, Di Xiaofeng's heart felt numb. He couldn't help but ask again, "Grandmother, mother, if you want to say something, just say it. I'm not used to looking at me like this." Seeing this, Xia Wanrong laughed out loud and said, "Xiaofeng, you're not young anymore. Beichen is your younger brother and he's been married for many years. What do you think about marriage?" Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. After understanding what was going on, he calmed down. Usually, grandmother and mother would pay the most attention to this point when they were together. In fact, mother wasn't very anxious about this matter. The most anxious person was grandmother. Unlike the past when grandmother mentioned this matter, he would try his best to avoid it. This time, he didn't feel repulsed by this question. Lin Yunqing knew her son the best. Just by noticing Di Xiaofeng's expression, she already understood a bit. "Xiaofeng, I see that you've always been very close to that Miss Yunyan. Back then, you were unwilling to contact the girl we introduced. It was because of her, right?" Di Xiaofeng's expression was a bit awkward. He was a grown man, so it was inevitable that he would feel embarrassed when this question was brought up. However, he still nodded. Lin Yunqing and Xia Wanrong both smiled. It was rare to see Di Xiaofeng like this. "You're not young anymore. It's normal to have someone you like." Lin Yunqing's smile was gentle and there was a motherly love in her eyes. Di Xiaofeng was a little worried. "Mother, you know she's from the Bailey family." He felt that his family had never had any prejudice against social status, but he was still a little worried. Looking at Di Xiaofeng's expression, Lin Yunqing had already guessed what he was worried about. She smiled faintly and said, "I know what you are worried about, but I believe you also understand that we are not people who care about these things." Thinking back to the time when Bailey Yunyan had come to the clan and walked so close to Xiaofeng, they had already understood in their hearts. What's more, when you really like someone, it's impossible to hide the look in your eyes. As a mother, no matter how slow-witted she was, she could still understand. After experiencing so many things, she had already seen through these things. As for her two sons, she only wanted them to be happy from the bottom of their hearts. When Beichen and Hong Zhuang got together, how many people thought that they were not suitable for each other? The final result also proved that this was the best choice. Children and grandchildren had their own blessings. Who knew when they would bring them a huge surprise? Xia Wanrong also nodded. "Grandmother only hopes that you can get married early and hold a grandson. As long as the other party is a sensible girl, grandmother will support it." Chapter 5991. In fact, he had always planned to tell his family about this. However, he was worried that something he didn't want to see would happen, so he delayed it. He didn't think that his grandmother and mother had already figured it out and he didn't need to worry at all. "Really?" The ecstatic Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask again. He just wanted to make sure. Looking at Di Xiaofeng's excited appearance, Xia Wanrong and Lin Yunqing couldn't help but laugh. The smile in their eyes grew wider and wider. "Of course it's true." Di Xiaofeng's smile spread from the bottom of his heart. He believed that when he told Yun Yan this news, she would be very happy. "Xiaofeng, you've really grown up. Look at how happy you are. I don't usually see you like this." Xia Wanrong teased with a smile. Her eyes were filled with unconcealable love. In addition to being happy, Lin Yunqing's expression also became more serious. "Xiaofeng, you are the young master of the Lin family. I have to discuss this matter with your grandfather first." Although Xiaofeng was her son, he had an even more important identity as the young master of the Lin family. The marriage of the young master was a big event for the entire family. She had to tell her father about this matter first. After confirming it, she had to go to the Bailey family to propose marriage. This kind of etiquette couldn't be neglected. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly and smiled. "Mother, I'll have to trouble you with this matter." Lin Yunqing chuckled and patted Di Xiaofeng's hand. She nodded and said, "Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. I'll help you prepare it, okay? Then I'll have to trouble grandmother and mother." Di Xiaofeng's eyes were as bright as shooting stars. He had always been serious about Yun Yan. Naturally, he didn't want to treat her unfairly. During this period of time, Yun Yan had always been with him. However, he could still faintly feel that Yun Yan was unconsciously revealing her worries. Although he had always assured Yun Yan that even if the family didn't agree, he would find a way to convince them. However, he also knew that before the dust settled, Yun Yan could not be worried. Fortunately, he could finally relax now. Bailey family. When Bai Li Fan heard that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had returned to the family, he was overjoyed. He immediately led a group of clansmen to welcome them. From the disciples who had returned, he had already found out about the master's performance in the ancient battlefield. Even though he had not seen it with his own eyes, he could imagine how magnificent the scene was. In the past, the Di family's biggest rivals were the Jun family and the Xiao family. Now that the Jun family and the Xiao family were no longer their opponents, the Di family would only become stronger and stronger. Most importantly, when the family's disciples went out to gain experience, he was always unable to eat or sleep in peace. He was worried that they would get injured and die. Because as a small family, they had no advantage at all in this kind of experience. To put it bluntly, they could only pick up scraps because once they encountered a large clan's team, they had no ability to face them head-on other than retreating. Otherwise, the slightest carelessness would result in the entire army being wiped out. He felt very helpless about this, but he could not change all of this because every small clan was like this. It would take a long time for a small family to be promoted to a large family, or for a cultivator with extraordinary talent to lead the family to become powerful. Chapter 5992. Even though the family head wasn't usually in the family and rarely came back, he could tell from the vitality on the faces of the family's young cultivators that everything had changed. In the past, everyone had always hoped to change everything, but they didn't have the ability to do so. Now, everyone was filled with hope. They didn't have the slightest bit of hesitation or confusion about the future, only the heart to fight. He never dared to imagine such a scene in the past. Family head. Welcome, family head. Bai Li Fan led the group of elders and disciples in saluting. Unlike when Bailey Hongzhuang first came to the Bailey family, everyone was filled with admiration from the bottom of their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Bai Li Fan with a smile. Second family head, let me introduce you. These are my family members, my maternal grandfather, maternal grandmother. Hearing this introduction, everyone realized that these people were Bailey Hongzhuang's family members. Actually, they had already heard this news from the Bailey family's cultivators. After all, they were cultivators from the Bailey family. Even though everyone knew that they wouldn't be bullied if they followed the family head to the Di family, they had been gone for so long that everyone was very concerned about their situation. Thus, they would still occasionally exchange letters. Greetings, I am the second family head, Bai Li Fan. Bai Li Fan revealed a smile. Speaking of which, they weren't related to Lan Yunxiao and the others in any way, but they were the family head's relatives, which made them members of the Bailey family. Second family head. Lan Yunxiao and the others also cupped their hands with warm smiles on their faces. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Bai Li Fan was older than Lan Yunxiao, but now he was addressing Hongzhuang as family head. It really was a bit strange. However, from the expressions of the Bailey family members, they understood that even though Hongzhuang hadn't returned for so long, her status and prestige in the Bailey family hadn't changed in the slightest. Everyone looked at her with respect and admiration. The relationship between Hongzhuang and this family was much closer than they had imagined. Let's not talk while standing. Let's go in first, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. She had never felt unfamiliar with the Bailey family. This was her family. It had always been this way. Right. Bai Li Fan hurriedly said, Look, I'm so happy to see you all back that I actually let everyone stand here. Everyone's face was filled with kind smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang was like a moon surrounded by stars as she walked into the Bailey family's meeting hall. Send someone to prepare some drinks and snacks, Bai Li Fan ordered. In the conference hall, everyone gathered together, and the atmosphere was joyous and harmonious. Family head, we've already heard about what happened at the ancient battlefield. Congratulations, family head. The first elder raised his cup and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He no longer had any doubts about Bailey Hongzhuang. She was their family's savior. Not only the first elder, but all the elders present had the same thought. Back then, they had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to take away their family. They had always thought that the second family head's decision was too crazy and risky. But now, it seemed that their foresight was too terrible. They were far inferior to the second family head's foresight. Chapter 5993. Everyone did not understand why she was doing this. Because of this, they were full of goodwill towards Bailey Hongzhuang and only wanted to do their best to help her. They could not reject Bailey Hongzhuang's generous help, but they felt a little guilty to accept it, so they could only do their best to treat her well. Let's toast to the family head. Bai Li Fan smiled. Congratulations, family head. Everyone raised their glasses. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her glass and drank the wine in one gulp. This time in the ancient battlefield, everyone has gained a lot. I believe that our Bailey family will get better and better. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of anticipation. She would definitely make the Bailey family a great family once again and return to the peak of glory. Once she said this, everyone's eyes shone with a dazzling light of hope. This time, I have brought back all the cultivators who had gone to learn about medicine. I plan to let some of them stay in the family. The medical skills taught by Dr. Wu can already treat many illnesses. There are also some talented doctors who have come back to visit their families. I will bring them back after that. When their medical skills are strong enough, they will come back. As for the rest, I will leave it to the second family head. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly explained her plan. Other than that, I have also prepared some miraculous pills and medicines. If anyone comes to seek medical treatment, they can solve it themselves. If they can't solve it, send someone to bring them to the D family. I will give them a heads up so you can rest assured. She had too many things to do now and could not put all her energy into the Bailey family. The medical aristocratic family always had a transcendent status no matter the time. Most importantly, no one could guarantee that they would not be seriously injured or fall ill. Therefore, no one was willing to offend a family like this. This was the Bailey family's best protection. The remuneration for treating patients and saving people would naturally not be small. With this remuneration, the Bailey family would be able to grow faster. Now, both she and Dr. Wu were famous. In fact, there were many people who came to seek treatment from Dr. Wu. It was because of this that she made a plan. In the future, the D family would not help anyone except for the people brought by the Bailey family. This way, everyone would know how much the D family valued the Bailey family. Even if they were just a middleman, the other party would remember this favor after helping them. Favors may seem like nothing, but they were extremely important. No one knew when they would need it. Bai Li Fan and the others were smart. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang, they understood what she meant. They understood that this seemingly simple matter actually contained a lot of benefits. Even though they had always been looking forward to the day when their family could become powerful, everyone understood that it wasn't that simple to make a family powerful. They couldn't even find a reliable method. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's simple plan had already pointed out a clear path. Chapter 5994. Lan Yunxiao and the others had been listening silently. Before this, they hadn't heard Bailey Hongzhuang mention much about the Bailey family. Now that they heard Hongzhuang's plan, they finally understood that Hongzhuang was actually so considerate of the Bailey family. This plan seemed simple, but it was very reliable. Lan Yunxiao's gaze gradually softened. His daughter was really amazing now. He always felt that Hongzhuang was still a child, so he couldn't help but worry. Now, it seemed that Hongzhuang was much more mature than they thought. She had long been able to take charge of things on her own. In fact, she was far better than them. The doctors who came back with them all had expectant looks on their faces. During their time in the D family, they had been studying medicine with all their might. No one dared to slack off. They understood that this opportunity was too rare. If they didn't cherish it, they would truly be letting down the family head. Of course, They also knew that their current medical skills weren't enough. They would continue to study and improve. Even though they studied very hard every day, they had never felt so fulfilled. They seemed to be able to see the future of the family head becoming stronger and stronger. In fact, after Bailey Hongzhuang became the Holy Maiden, the Bailey family status had been constantly rising. Their former competitors were now thinking of ways to mend the rift between them. Some families that they had once been unable to climb up to had even taken the initiative to express their goodwill. He felt that this situation would become even more obvious after the news of the ancient battlefield spread. And all of this was because of the family head. If it weren't for the family head, how could they have such glory? Bewitching smiled as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. His wife was indeed worthy of being the family head of the Bailey family 1,000 years ago. She handled this kind of matter with ease. The overall plan had already been prepared, so there was no need to worry at all. The Bailey family of today was very different from before. The Holy Maiden was the family head, and she had the support of the D family. In addition to her medical skills, it would be strange if they didn't rise up. Although it would take a long time for them to reach the level of the D family, it was inevitable that they would get better and better. In order to become a top-notch clan, in addition to influence, one's cultivation must also increase. Without sufficient strength, it was impossible to reach such a level. However, since he had chosen the path of a medical family, it would be much easier for him than for others. The rest would only require time to accumulate. On the other hand, the number of people in the Bailey family had to be increased. Fortunately, his wife had already thought through all of this and did not immediately have the intention of making the Bailey family powerful to such an extent. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished talking about the plan, the atmosphere became even livelier. Amidst the crisscrossing cups, it was a harmonious scene. After the party was over, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Li Fan talked in detail. Patriarch, I heard from Tianheng and the others that Jun Lingxuan seems to have been possessed? Bai Li Fan asked doubtfully. Regarding this, he had always been very surprised. However, Tianheng said that it had been possessed, and then he said that he had regained control of the body. This confused him. Logically speaking, if the body had been possessed, it should be impossible to regain control of the body. That was completely destroying the soul. Chapter 5995. But why did I hear that he took it back? That's just Xiao Sou's trick to scare people. Hearing this, Bai Li Fan was slightly taken aback, but he quickly accepted this answer. I see. I've said that the possibility of taking it back is too small. Bai Li Fan sighed and frowned again. In that case, won't this matter be even more troublesome? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and shook her head. Xiao Sou's wishful thinking may fall through. Don't worry, things aren't that bad. Bai Li Fan looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing her confident appearance, his heart was completely at ease. He trusted the family head very much. Even if the family head was so young, and even his son Tianheng was older than the family head, he knew very well how much power the young family head could unleash. The main reason I came back this time is to tell you about the family's future plans. I have a lot of things to do, so I can't stay here too often. However, if you have anything to say, send someone to inform me. I'll definitely deal with it as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang reminded. Bai Li Fan smiled and nodded. His heart was filled with gratitude. Thank you, family head. This is my responsibility. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and stared at Bai Li Fan. In my heart, the Bailey family is my family. The family's matters are my matters. I hope you can understand this and truly treat me as a member of the Bailey family. Looking at those sincere and serious eyes, Bai Li Fan's heart was filled with shock. However, he also understood that there were some mistakes in his way of thinking. I understand. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stayed at the Bailey family, the Xiao family was in a different situation. Xiao Sou had always wanted to visit the Jun family, but a few days ago, she heard that some of the Jun family's cultivators had already returned. However, Jun Lingxuan had yet to return. This news didn't make her too worried. The other cultivators had all returned, so how could Jun Lingxuan not return? She had begun to think of marrying Qing Devil as soon as possible. After all, she was already Qing Devil's woman. Moreover, with Qing Devil's strength, he would definitely go to the crossing immortal domain or even the immortal domain in the future. For her, it was a strange place full of yearning. For Qing Devil, it used to be his hometown. When she heard Shu Yu's master talk about the crossing immortal domain, she was very envious and hoped that she could go there herself one day. Shu Yu had merely gone to the celestial realm, yet he already had a transcendent status in the upper realm. If she had gone to the celestial realm, wouldn't that be even more impressive? With that in mind, Xiao Shou went to look for Xiao Yanlong. "Father, we are anxious to wait here all the time. Why don't we go directly to the Jun family?" She had been waiting here all the time because she couldn't hold back the anxiety in her heart. After going to the Jun family, if Qing Devil came back, she would be the first to know. Seeing Xiao Shou's anxious look, Xiao Yanlong was a little surprised. He vaguely felt that his daughter seemed to have special feelings for Qing Devil. If it was only for interests, so shouldn't care so much. However, no matter what the purpose was, it didn't matter if they went to the Jun family. On the contrary, it could shorten the distance between them and the Jun family. Chapter 5996. Seeing that Xiao Yanlong agreed, Xiao Shou also breathed a sigh of relief. She really couldn't wait any longer. What she was most worried about now was whether the Qing Devil would want to come to the Jun family. However, according to their previous conversation, such an environment would not do any harm to the Azure Fiend, so he should be willing to come. All these things made her a little confused for a while. The only thing she was sure of was that she wanted to see the Qing Devil. When Xiao Sudong heard that Xiao Shou was going to the Jun family, he didn't choose to go with her. Recently, his mood was very complicated, and he couldn't even concentrate on his cultivation. He began to miss the past. Before he became an ally with the Jun family, both his father and sister were not like this. At that time, many people said that the Jun family did things by hook or by crook. At that time, he also had the same idea. However, all the things that happened later were beyond his expectations. Even if he wanted to change, he had no chance. And now he found that his father and sister had been assimilated by the Jun family. He was still powerless to change all this. The most important thing was that when he saw that Bewitching was open and above board and had so many friends, he couldn't help but envy him. In fact, putting everything aside, he also admired Bewitching very much. It was just that the positions of the two sides were completely different. The more outstanding Bewitching was, the greater the threat to them. He hoped that Jun Lingshuan was such a person. Then they wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. However, Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have extraordinary talent in this regard. Even Di Xiaofeng couldn't do this at that time. In just a few years, he had already gained a firm foothold here and had so many friends. All these were things that they couldn't envy. He couldn't be the only one who envied this. When Jun Hongqing knew that Xiao Yanlong and Xiao Shou had come, a big smile appeared on his face. In fact, as the waiting time became longer and longer, he was a little uncertain in his heart. He was only worried that something unexpected would happen in the process. If Ling Sun was unable to return, he was also worried that the relationship with the Xiao family would be severed because of this. At that time, the Jun family would be in an even more difficult situation. This was obviously something he didn't want to see, but based on the current situation, he couldn't take the initiative to contact the Xiao clan. However, now that Xiao Yanlong and the other two had taken the initiative to come, and were so concerned about Ling Sun's situation, it made him feel a wave of warmth, and he completely heaved a sigh of relief. Hongcheng, Ling Sun hasn't returned yet? When Xiao Yanlong saw Jun Hongcheng, he smiled and greeted him. After the two sides formed an alliance, he came to the Jun family very freely and did not feel restrained at all. A hint of helplessness flashed across Jun Hongcheng's face when he heard that. He sighed and nodded. Ling Sun hasn't returned yet. Perhaps he was delayed by something on the way. A hint of disappointment flashed in Xiao Shou's eyes. She had hoped to see Azure Demon when she arrived. Although she didn't know Qing Devil for long, she couldn't forget everything that happened in the ancient battlefield. Especially when she heard Qing Devil talk about the immortal realm, she was filled with endless yearning. It was too difficult to go to the immortal realm with her own strength. She could only reach there smoothly if she was with Qing Devil. Chapter 5997. Jun Hongqing did not ignore the disappointment and eagerness on Xiao Sou's face, and immediately became even more satisfied with his future daughter-in-law. At that time, Ling Sun spent a lot of effort to pursue Xiao Sou, and he was not sure whether Xiao Sou agreed to the engagement because the Di family was hopeless or because she really liked Ling Sun. Now it seemed that his original worries were unnecessary. His son was still very charming. No matter what the reason was at the beginning, at least now Xiao Sou must be sincere to Ling Sun. The current situation made him feel more depressed than when he was suppressed by the Di family many years ago. At least the Di family had always been in a stable state, and not like now when they were in the limelight. If Xiao Sou's position as the Holy Maiden of Light had not been snatched away, then the current situation would not have fallen to this point. Unfortunately, the heavens did not fulfill people's wishes, and no one expected such a situation to occur. Is Master also here? Xiao Sou asked aloud. Jun Hongqing pointed to the back and said, "He is in the back courtyard, go and pay him a visit." Xiao Sou nodded, and immediately walked towards the back. As she learned more about the immortal domain, she wanted to know more about the new face of the immortal domain. The immortal domain, just this name alone was full of endless attraction. Although her master had not been to the real immortal domain, he had been to the immortal domain, so he could be considered a half-immortal. Maybe after this incident, she could learn more about the immortal domain from her master. When he saw Xiao Sou, he was not surprised at all, and his expression was gentle and calm. "So, you are here." "Greetings, Master." Xiao Sou bowed respectfully. "It seems that Ling Sun has not returned yet." Shu Yu's eyes swept over. Since only Xiao Sou came, it proved that there was no news about Jun Lingxuan. Xiao Sou nodded slightly. "I think he should be delayed by something, so he did not come back." Hearing this, Shu Yu looked at Xiao Sou meaningfully and said, "You're worried that he doesn't want to come back, right?" As soon as he said this, Xiao Sou's expression suddenly changed. After a quick flash of panic, she forced herself to calm down. There was a trace of guilt in her voice. "Master, what do you mean? It's impossible to reverse the process of possession." Shu Yu's expression was calm. After hearing the news from the cultivators who returned this time, he already knew the real situation. Since the Qing Devil admitted that she had possessed his body, it proved that Jun Lingxuan had died long ago. It was impossible for her to take back the initiative. He had been to the crossing celestial region before. Unlike the cultivators in the upper realm who rarely came into contact with possession, he was very familiar with it. When he first found out, he was very puzzled by Xiao Sou's reaction. After thinking about it carefully, he guessed the reason for her actions. Most importantly, at this moment, after seeing Xiao Sou's expression, he seemed to understand a little more. Xiao Sou looked flustered, her eyes kept flickering, and her palms were quickly sweating. She unconsciously lowered her head, and her mind was rapidly searching for a way to deceive this point. Even if she made up this kind of thing flawlessly, it was still possible to deceive family head Jun and the others. However, if she wanted to deceive her master, it was indeed too difficult. Previously, she had thought of everything too simply and had completely forgotten about this point. Chapter 5998. "Master," Xiao Sou said hurriedly but was interrupted by Shu Yu. "Say no more. I know what you're thinking." Xiao Sou's heart skipped a beat. Everything would be over once her master told others. All the plans they had thought of before would turn into bubbles, and there would be no more hope. "I won't interfere with the decision you've made. I won't say much about it either. Just think about it carefully." Xiao Sou, who was worrying about how to solve this big problem, was stunned after hearing Shu Yu's words. She subconsciously wondered if she had misheard. Did her master want to keep it a secret for her? "Master?" Shu Yu looked indifferent. "I know it's not easy for you. You just have to make your own plans. I won't get involved." After getting a positive answer, Xiao Sou breathed a sigh of relief and her heart settled down. "Thank you, Master. The reason why I mention this is to give you a few words of advice. People in the immortal realm are not simple. If you don't know Qing Devil's character, you have to be careful. Shu Yu looked at Xiao Sou with a complicated expression. For so many years, he had not accepted any disciples. He was quite satisfied with his two disciples, Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan. However, he did not expect that such a change would happen after he went to the ancient battlefield. Nowadays, he had become indifferent to many things. Everyone knew about the conflicts, and even intrigues between aristocratic families. Jun Lingxuan was no longer around. He just hoped that Xiao Sou could live well. Master, don't worry. Xiao Sou was moved. I've been in contact with Qing Devil for some time. I know his character. He has no evil intentions towards me. With Qing Devil's strength, it was not difficult for him to kill her. However, Qing Devil did not want to kill her. This was what she was most confident about. Noticing Xiao Sou's sparkling eyes, Shu Yu understood her thoughts. He didn't say anything more. Everyone had their own judgment. Bailey Hongzhuang's group stayed with the Bailey family for 7 days before leaving. During this time, Bailey Hongzhuang had a general understanding of what had happened in the Bailey family. Bai Li Fan and the others seized this opportunity to ask many questions, and Bailey Hongzhuang answered them one by one. Whether it was Bai Li Fan or the group of elders, they were all deeply impressed by Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. She was clearly so young, and she rarely interfered with the family's affairs, but when it came to solving it, she was so handy. No matter how complicated the problem was, she could always find the root of the problem and come up with a solution. Most of the time, his answers made everyone's eyes light up. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang was also very happy to guide the family's disciples in their cultivation. Of course, as long as someone asked for advice on alchemy or medicine, she would not be stingy. In just 7 days, the Bailey family's cultivators felt that they had gained a lot. This kind of harvest was something that they would have to spend a lot of time to achieve on a normal day. If possible, they really hoped that the family head could stay in the family for a while longer. Then all of them would be greatly improved. At the same time, they also understood that the family head was very busy and could not stay here all the time. Chapter 5999. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't urge the doctors from the Bailey family to return to the D family. They hadn't been back for a long time, so it was only right for them to stay a little longer. However, when they were about to leave, the doctors who still wanted to return to the D family to study also followed the group. Although they wanted to reunite with their families, everyone was working hard for the sake of their family. How could they slack off? Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a trace of satisfaction in her eyes. With such a firm heart, she believed that their future path would be even smoother. After thinking it over, Lan Yunxiao and the others decided not to stay in the Bailey family. They knew that if they stayed here, they wouldn't have to worry about anything. However, Hongzhuang spent most of her time in the D family. They also hoped to see more of Hongzhuang. Moreover, when they first went to the D family, they felt very uncomfortable. However, as time passed, they became more familiar with the D family and didn't feel too distant. Most importantly, they needed to increase their strength as soon as possible. Only by cultivating in the D family's cultivation room could they increase their strength faster. Even if no one urged them on a daily basis, that sense of urgency had never disappeared. Right now, they only felt that they were a burden and couldn't help at all. However, everyone's mentality was very calm. At least, they would do their best and the gap between them would gradually shrink. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching were naturally very happy with Lan Yunxiao and the others' decision. They had been looking forward to this result. Although it was very convenient to travel between the Bailey family and the D family, it wasn't as convenient as staying in the D family. After returning to the D family, Bewitching also asked about the Jun family's situation. It said that Jun Lingxuan hasn't returned to the Jun family yet. It seems that the nine-tailed Inferno Fox's judgment was right. The Qing Devil must still be in the ancient battlefield. Bewitching's lips curled into a playful and devilish smile. His incomparably handsome face suddenly exuded endless charm. Just one look from him was enough to captivate a person's soul. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly. This is good news for us. The Jun family hasn't given up yet. It's said that Xiao So has gone directly to the Jun family to wait. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. I'm really curious about their expressions when they find out that Jun Lingxuan won't be coming back. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked at each other with a sly smile in their eyes. Inside the room, the woman was wearing a white dress and was lying lazily on the bench. Her long dress flowed elegantly and her hair was also wantonly scattered. Against her fair and sparkling skin, it was like a picture scroll. Bailey Hongzhuang had one hand behind her head and the other hand was holding a scroll, casually reading it. The faint warm sun shone on her body, adding a trace of gentleness and warmth. When Di Beichen walked into the room and saw this scene, his heart seemed to melt for a moment. He slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and reached out to pick her up, letting her lean on his legs. Looking down at that perfect and exquisite face, his eyes were full of gentleness. "Wife, what are you looking at?" Bailey Hongzhuang found a comfortable position in Di Beichen's arms and narrowed her eyes in satisfaction. That gentle and lazy appearance was like a cat, exuding endless charm. Chapter 6000. Di Beichen took the scroll and raised his eyebrows slightly. This is what the Qing devil was talking about. He carefully examined the scroll in his hand. This scroll looked very old, as if it had been worn down by endless time. It had a heavy feeling of history. The material of the scroll was also very special. It was very comfortable to touch, as soft and smooth as warm jade. Looking at the scroll, she felt that it would disappear if she touched it casually. However, after touching it, she realized that it was not as fragile as it looked. Since the Qing devil cares so much about this scroll, it must be something extraordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She looked up at the handsome face and suddenly felt that Beichen was really good-looking. No matter how she looked at him, he was so good-looking that she blushed and her heart beat faster. Even though she had been with Beichen for so long, she never got tired of looking at him. On the contrary, the feeling of being attracted to him had never disappeared. "I have been busy since I came back, so I didn't have time to look at this carefully. Since I have time today, I want to see what it is. Did you find anything?" Di Beichen touched Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hair gently as if he was touching a rare treasure. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "There is a layer of restriction on it. I have tried many ways, but I can't see the content clearly." She was sure that this scroll must come from the immortal area. Although she didn't know what the Qing devil's level was in the immortal area, it should be more extraordinary than the things in the upper world. Di Beichen also noticed that there were many words on the scroll, but he couldn't see them clearly. This situation was not strange. There must be a special way to open such a mysterious scroll. "Don't worry. We will figure it out eventually." Di Beichen smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She didn't care too much about this scroll. The main reason why she kept it was to prevent the Qing devil from getting what he wanted. As for the way to open it, maybe they would know it when they arrived at the immortal area. "Has Yunjue finished his closed-door training?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Since they came back, all the cultivators had been resting. The trip to the ancient battlefield was really tiring. Moreover, everyone's cultivation had improved a lot. It was normal for them to relax for a while. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying went to the Emperor Cloud City a few days ago, saying that they wanted to eat all the good things that they hadn't eaten for a while. When they heard. And they hadn't come back. Only Mo Yunjue went into seclusion after he came back. Everyone admired him for his hard work. Not yet, but it should be soon. Di Beichen smiled faintly. When he breaks through, he will come out. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. When they came back, they heard Yunjue say that he was very close to breaking through, so they wanted to break through in one go. When Yunjue breaks through and Xiren and Shangguan Yingying come back, let's go to the abandoned immortal forest. We haven't been back since the last time we left. I wonder how Granny Hua and the others are doing. Zhongli Mu's strength should be more terrifying. Chapter 6001. I think it's boring for you to stay at home. Why don't we go to the Emperor Cloud City to find Xiren and the others? Bewitching smiled. Granny Hua and the others love snacks the most. We can also buy some. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately sat up straight and nodded with a sweet smile. Okay, then let's go now. Emperor Cloud City. As the city closest to the D family, it was inextricably linked to the D family. Emperor Cloud City was extremely lively on weekdays, and now with the D family's reputation becoming more and more famous, more and more people came to the Emperor Cloud City. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, they were surprised to find that the Emperor Cloud City was even more lively than before. People were coming and going, and it was full of laughter. Let's go see Huang Futing first. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Di Beichen naturally took Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked forward. Since he told his father about his plan, his father had sent people to start building the Dark Sacred Assembly not far from the Emperor Cloud City. Huang Futing and the others were now his followers. Naturally, he couldn't let them stay in the ruined temple like before. At the very least, they should have a more comfortable residence. Although this didn't seem like much, it was a completely different feeling. He hoped that everyone would no longer feel homeless. On the contrary, they would feel more at home. Looking at the huge black building in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with shock and surprise. This building was extremely wide and round, exuding a heavy and mysterious aura. It was surrounded by mountains and forests. Although it was outside, it wasn't far from the Emperor Cloud City. On the contrary, this location gave off a sense of leisure. The whole building was majestic and spectacular. Diyu Jue's work was also very impressive. Just from every detail, one could see that it took a lot of effort to build the headquarters of the Dark Sacred Assembly. At present, the Dark Sacred Assembly had not been officially established yet, so there was no sign hanging here. After all, before Di Beichen prepared everything, if this news was spread, it was inevitable that someone would come to cause trouble. This was not something they wanted to see. Di Beichen also looked at the building in shock, and his heart was filled with emotions. Before he left the family, he had only told his father about his thoughts. In fact, he had planned to prepare everything himself, but he didn't expect that he would suddenly have to go out and train, so he could only leave everything to his father. However, he did not expect his father to complete everything so well. It was almost the same as what he had planned. Wife, from now on, this will be the headquarters of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Di Beichen turned to look at her. His deep eyes were as dazzling as the stars. Bailey Hongzhuang saw a firm conviction in his eyes. This will definitely be the most sensational event in the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. As her vision gradually broadened, her confidence in this matter became even stronger. In Di Beichen's mind, he couldn't help but think of the scene when his master had talked to him about this matter. He had promised to give the dark attribute cultivators more space to live, to let them live a dignified life, and not be looked at with strange eyes by others. Now this plan had begun. In the near future, he believed that this matter would be completed. Chapter 6002. Huang Futing and the rest walked out after noticing that there were people outside. Ever since they came here, their hearts had been filled with gratitude. When they first sought help from Di Beichen, everyone only thought that they had to work hard for Di Beichen. However, during this period of time, they had not done anything for Di Beichen at all. On the contrary, it was the other party who had been contributing. Whether it was the cultivation resources, the current residents, or the various care in the ancient battlefield, it was all Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang who helped them. On the contrary, they did not contribute anything. Now, they no longer had many concerns like before. They only had one thought, and that was to work hard for the young master willingly. No matter what the young master asked them to do, they would go through fire and water without hesitation. When everyone walked outside and saw the two familiar figures, smiles appeared on their faces. "Young master, madam." Huang Futing hurried over. Everyone had thought about how to address Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. In the end, they followed the way the Di family addressed them. To them, Di Beichen was not only their president in the future, but also their leader. Seeing the familiar faces, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were also delighted. "You're all here." After the young master told us the news, we came over immediately. Huang Futing smiled faintly. "Thank you, young master and madam." Everyone bowed together. Perhaps in the eyes of others, having a stable residence was nothing. However, for people like them who did not have a fixed residence, this feeling was too long since they had such a feeling. They had not felt at ease for a long time. Many of the thoughts in their hearts could not be expressed in words. The only thing they could say was the word, "Thank you." In the future, this will be the headquarters of the Sacred Assembly. What do you all think? Di Beichen slowly walked into the Sacred Assembly. He realized that it was extremely spacious inside, and the layout and design were very considerate. Obviously, his father must have found a skilled craftsman to specially design it. "Young master, this place is really great." "Yes, not only is it spacious, but the design is also very good. I've been to the headquarters of other guilds before, and our place is much better than theirs." Excitement appeared on everyone's faces at the same time. Even now, they were still immersed in such joy, looking forward to the day when the Dark Sacred Assembly was established. Di Beichen nodded slightly and said, "During this period of time, all of you can cultivate here in peace. Once we're done with the preparations, we can announce this news." As soon as he said that, everyone's breathing quickened. After waiting for so long, this day had finally arrived. "When the time comes, I will inform you. Everyone, prepare yourselves." Di Beichen's eyes were bright and dazzling like diamonds. "Huangfu, it's time for our brothers to come back. I hope that everyone will be here on the day the Sacred Assembly is established." "I understand." Huang Futing nodded, and he couldn't conceal the excitement on his face. Suddenly, Di Beichen seemed to have thought of something and said, "Before that, you have to do something first." "Young master, feel free to tell me. I will definitely settle this matter properly." Chapter 6003. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Huang Futing's body trembled, and his expression froze for a moment, but his eyes gradually turned red. "Young master," Di Beichen smiled faintly, we already know about your matter. She has been waiting for you for so long. It's time to go and pick her up." Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Huang Futing with a smile. From the conversation in the ancient battlefield, they already understood that the woman had sacrificed too much for Huang Futing. Now that the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established, Dark Attribute cultivators would no longer have to live in hiding like before. Only by bringing her over would Huang Futing be truly happy. Huang Futing suppressed the feeling of tears in his eyes. In fact, this had always been a part of his heart that he did not have the courage to touch. Ever since he learned about her recent situation, he could not help but think of her whenever he was alone. On the day the Dark Sacred Assembly was established, he also wanted her to see it with her own eyes. "Thank you, young master." Huang Futing's expression was serious, and his voice was mixed with more emotions than usual. At the same time, the other cultivators present also revealed joyful smiles. "Brother Huangfu, you can do it. We're all waiting for sister-in-law to come back." Before they found the young master, Huang Futing was their leader. If Huang Futing had not gathered them together, their lives would have been even more difficult. More importantly, Huang Futing led all of them to find the young master, which was why they had their current lives. Usually, everyone could feel that he would be depressed sometimes. Originally, everyone only thought that it was because of the family, but now it seemed that he had always been thinking about someone. Looking at the familiar and amiable faces around him, the smile on Huang Futing's face became more and more brilliant. Then he nodded heavily and his smile was free and easy. "Don't worry, I'll definitely bring her back." Everyone cheered, and at this moment, everyone felt happy from the bottom of their hearts. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked around the Dark Sacred Assembly, and the more they looked, the more satisfied they were. As the head of an aristocratic family, Di Yujue was very familiar with these things. Everything was designed in an orderly manner, and no one could find any problems with it. After the two of them left the Dark Sacred Assembly's headquarters, they continued to search for Xiren and Shangguan Ying. With Xiren and Yingying's gluttonous nature, they should be in some restaurant at this time, right? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the bustling streets. It was already noon, and the sun had become scorching hot. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Xiao He and Xiao Bai are also following them. We just have to follow their auras. The two of them walked forward, and it didn't take long for them to sense Xiao He and Xiao Bai's auras. After taking a closer look, wasn't it the restaurant in front of them? When Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying arrived, they found that Xiren and Shangguan Yingying had ordered a table of good wine and dishes. Opposite them were Xiao He and Xiao Bai, and the two people and two beasts' faces were filled with excitement. I guess that you must be having a meal. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and quickly walked forward. Hongzhuang! Shangguan Yingying was overjoyed. Why are you here? Come and sit down, the taste of this restaurant's food is really amazing. Master. Xiao He turned into a white light and directly pounced into Bailey Hongzhuang's arms, excitedly rubbing against her body. Master, I missed you so much. Chapter 6004. With Master here, I'm so happy that I forget about home. Xiao He leaned into Bailey Hongzhuang's arms, her little face full of seriousness. Tisk tsk. Shangguan Yingying poked Xiao He with her chopsticks. Who was it that said that if she could eat so happily every day, she would rather stay here forever? Xiao He turned her head and glared angrily at Shangguan Yingying, who had exposed her, then looked innocently at Bailey Hongzhuang. I don't know who Yingying is talking about. Ha! Shangguan Yingying laughed. She liked Xiao He's playful look. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Xiao He's head. Come on, do you think I don't know your personality? You can't walk when you see good food. If you really missed me, you would have come looking for me after playing outside for so many days. Hee hee. Xiao He smiled embarrassedly. I actually guessed that Master would come looking for me today, so I waited here obediently. Wouldn't it be terrible if I went the wrong way? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be bothered to listen to this little girl's nonsense. After sitting down with Xiao He in her arms, she noticed that Bai Li Yanche and Ling weren't here. At the same time, Di Beichen's voice rang out. Where did Yanche and Ling go? As soon as he said this, when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looked at each other, and their expressions became very interesting. Speaking of this matter, it's a bit complicated. What happened? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, a little puzzled. Logically speaking, it should be impossible for anything dangerous to happen in Emperor Yun City. What's more, if there really was danger, Xiren and Shangguan Ying wouldn't be eating so leisurely. Yanche really has good luck with women. Xiren raised his eyebrows, his cultured and refined face filled with a gossipy expression. Shangguan Ying continued, you also know how lethal Yanche's looks are. When we were walking with Yanche earlier, all the unmarried girls on the road were secretly throwing flirtatious glances at him. Even married ladies couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. Along the way, as long as it was a female, their eyes were filled with love. You guys didn't see it. It was simply a miracle. Xiren shook his head and sighed. Even now, when he thought about it, he was still amazed. Is it that exaggerated? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and subconsciously looked at Di Beichen. Yanche's handsomeness was obvious to all. Not to mention Di Yun City, even in the Di family, there were many girls who admired him. They were already accustomed to this matter, but Yingying and Shangguan Ying were exaggerating a little. Beichen's looks were not inferior to Yanche's. Although there were many people paying attention to them along the way, it wasn't that shocking. You don't need to look at Beichen. Xiren put down his chopsticks and said, you two are a well-known couple, especially in Emperor Yun City. Who doesn't know how much you love each other? A married man and an unmarried man have different lethality. Shangguan Yingying nodded in agreement. What's more, you're the holy maiden of the light. Who would dare steal your man? Wouldn't that be courting death? Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Now that I think about it, what you said makes sense. Of course. Shangguan Yingying looked proud. What does this have to do with Yanche not being here? Chapter 6005. Haha, that's the most important point. Xiren chuckled. You know how frightening Yen Che is, so it's inevitable that girls would throw themselves at him. It's not like what you're saying. Shangguan Yingying glanced sideways at Xiren, a hint of disdain in her expression. Then she said seriously, actually, this is a story of a hero saving a damsel in distress. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying finally understood what was going on after Wen Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's narration. It turned out that on their way to the restaurant, Yen Che saw a girl being bullied by a thug, so he stepped in to save her. That girl was quite pitiful. Her stepmother had sold her to a thug, so Bailey Yen Che took out some money and gave it to the thug, writing off the matter once and for all. Bailey Yen Che thought that the matter was over, but just as he was about to leave, that girl proposed to follow Bailey Yen Che. In my opinion, that girl must be in love with Yen Che. Shangguan Yingying smiled faintly. If it were me, and I was in such a difficult situation, and a handsome and rich man saved me, I would definitely be willing to give myself to him. Xiren raised his eyebrows and asked with narrowed eyes, then why didn't you give yourself to me when I saved you before? Haven't I already given myself to you? Shangguan Yingying chuckled. Besides, it's not like I don't have anywhere to go given my situation. Yen Che didn't agree, did he? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Yen Che had been with her since he was young. As a beast king, there were many times when he was cold, but he still had a kind heart. Saving someone was completely within her expectations. If she and Bewitching were in the same situation, they would have also stepped in to save them. But that girl wanted to follow them, so this matter was a little complicated. As expected of brother and sister, you even guessed Yen Che's reaction. Shangguan Yingying gave her a thumbs up. Yen Che didn't do anything, but that girl's foothold has become a problem. Think about it. If her stepmother can betray her once, she can betray her a second time. She can't be lucky enough to be saved every time, right? So, Yen Che and Linger went to help her find a place to stay? Bewitching asked with raised eyebrows. That seems to be the case. Xiren nodded. Speaking of which, the most interesting thing isn't this, but Ling Er's attitude. Haha, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but laugh. Isn't Linger usually very cold? But she's different today. How is it different? Bailey Hongzhuang also had a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Linger usually didn't care about many things. Usually, when she encountered such things, she would definitely not care about it. But, if this matter involved Yen Che, it might really be a little different. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's curious expression, Shangguan Yingying's smile became even brighter. Hongzhuang, you're starting to gossip too. Ha! Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly. Don't keep us in suspense. Hurry up and tell us. You know how cold Linger usually is. She wouldn't care about this kind of thing, but when she saw that the girl insisted on following Yen Che, she volunteered to help her find a place to stay. Don't you think that's very surprising? Linger volunteered? Chapter 6006. Don't doubt it. What you've heard is the truth. Shangguan Yingying picked up a mouthful of food and put it in her mouth. She was so happy that she didn't hesitate to eat. Bewitching and Wen Xiren ate together. They already knew what was going on, so they watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying chatter with interest. Hongzhuang, do you think Linger likes Yen Che? Shangguan Yingying asked as she put food in Bailey Hongzhuang's bowl. Try it. It tastes good. I think we can bring some with us when we go to Granny Hua's place. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Granny Hua and the others love delicious food. We haven't been back for so long. This time we must bring more gifts. As their strength increased, they were even more grateful for the guidance Granny Hua and the others had given them. They had helped them for no reason, and they had no way to repay this kindness. The only thing they could do was make Granny Hua and the others happier. I have the same idea. Xiren and I have bought a lot of things these days. Shangguan Yingying smiled. It seemed that they were all thinking the same thing. Ling and Yen Che's relationship is indeed a bit unclear, but it's best if we don't get involved in this kind of thing. If one day they really do get together, we'll be happy to see it. Bai Li Hongzhuang smiled gently. She felt that things in this world were really interesting. Back in the Chaos Ring, before Yen Che had taken human form, Ling often bullied Yen Che and the others. Who would have thought that after Yen Che took human form, the relationship between the two would take a huge turn? It was very interesting just thinking about it. I'm actually more curious about what kind of place Ling will find for this girl. Shangguan Yingying's face was full of curiosity. If it were any other time, Ling would probably just throw this girl out, but it's not very likely that she will do so today. If she goes to another city, it might be possible, but if she stays in Emperor Cloud City, this girl's stepmother will find her sooner or later. That's right. That girl looks quite pitiful. Her tear-stained face makes one not have the heart to treat her cruelly. When Xiren also said, if we can find her a safe place to stay, that would be a good thing. Bai Li Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This situation reminded her of herself in the beginning. When she was in the general's mansion, her life was also very miserable. Otherwise, the original Bai Li Hongzhuang would not have died. Let's wait patiently. I believe that they will find a suitable solution. Bai Li Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If they couldn't find a suitable place in Emperor Cloud City, they could go to other cities. Just how big was the upper realm? As long as he didn't go back, there were plenty of places he could go. Shangguan Yingying nodded slightly. I also think that this problem is very simple for them to solve. The four of them chatted as they ate. Perhaps it was because they had been too tense during their cultivation, but now that they could relax, everyone felt exceptionally happy. Of course, they also understood that this was just a short vacation. When Yunju came out of seclusion, they would go to the abandoned immortal forest to cultivate. After all, everything was pushing them forward now. They couldn't stop at all. And Master. Chapter 6007. Bai Li Hongzhuang turned her head and found that Bai Li Yen Che and Ling had already arrived, and there was a strange figure beside them. The girl was very delicate and pretty, with soft facial features and a gentle temperament. At this moment, she was following behind Bai Li Yen Che, with a bit of panic and timidity on her face. Shangguan Yingying was still holding a piece of vegetable in her mouth. When she suddenly saw this scene, she couldn't help but open her mouth, and the vegetable fell back into the bowl. What's going on? Bai Li Hongzhuang and Bewitching also looked at the two strangely. This scene was different from what they had imagined. Ling still had a cold face, and compared to her usual indifference, it was undoubtedly colder at this moment. Bai Li Yen Che saw that Bai Li Hongzhuang and Bewitching were also here, and he immediately breathed a sigh of relief, a smile on his face. Sister, brother-in-law, you're also here. Bai Li Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile of concern. You're hungry too, right? Do you want some more food? Bai Li Yen Che nodded slightly, then turned around and said, let's sit down and talk. After sitting down, Bai Li Yen Che said, Sister, I presume you already know the situation? Bai Li Hongzhuang responded, but what's the problem? Do you need our help? This matter really needs brother-in-law's help. Hearing this, Bewitching's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but his expression was extremely calm. What do you need me to do? Just tell me. I was originally going to help Miss Wanqing find a place to stay, but I also understood that if she stayed in Emperor Cloud City, it would be difficult for her to truly live a peaceful life, so I prepared to leave some money for her to travel out of the city. I didn't expect her to be a cultivator of the dark attribute. With this attribute, even if she went to other cities, I'm afraid her life wouldn't be easy. With a helpless expression on his handsome white face, Bai Li Yen Che looked at Bewitching and said, Brother-in-law, I think you can give Miss Wanqing a better place to go. What do you think? When Gu Wanqing heard that Bai Li Yen Che was going to hand her over to Bewitching, she was a little nervous. She lowered her head and didn't even dare to look at Bewitching and the others. She didn't expect Bai Li Yen Che's brother-in-law to be young Master D. He was the young master of the D family. She simply couldn't believe that such a person with such a noble status was by her side right now. When Bewitching heard that Gu Wanqing was of the dark attribute, he already understood Bai Li Yen Che's idea. He looked at Gu Wanqing with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Bai Li Hongzhuang also looked at Gu Wanqing. This name really matched this girl's image. However, the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established. If a dark attribute girl suddenly appeared at this time, they had to be cautious. Although Gu Yunqing didn't look like a thoughtful person, it was necessary to consider. They couldn't let any uncertain factors appear in this plan. Feeling Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's gazes, Gu Wanqing became even more flustered. Her fingers intertwined and her voice trembled as she said, "No matter what you ask me to do, I will do my best to do it. I will never cause trouble for anyone. If I can be young Master Yen Che's maid, it will be my blessing." As soon as these words came out, everyone present looked at each other and felt a little amused. This girl was honest. She probably didn't want to do anything right now. She just wanted to stay by Li Yanche's side. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.